All right, my name is Judson Powell, and this is the fastest 15 minutes on the internet and on social media. Please hit the subscribe button, the like button, share it with your friends. Today, I want to talk about the spiritual origins of slavery and the things that spiritually have affected the nation up until now, and in fact, right now, until the present. Because a lot of people are really, I don't know, they're really like curious or they're inquisitive about racism. And even, I mean, and it goes among all races because people don't really understand that this stuff has been spiritualized. And I want to talk to you really and say it's spiritual. First of all, anything that has been going on for, between 250 and 400 years is not just going to go away. It's not just going to disappear. It's not going to change. Nothing like that. It's all going to basically be the same. And because somebody had a superior position and somebody else had an inferior position, it makes people assume that that's how it's supposed to be. But inside there is a lie and there is hypocrisy. And so that's what I want to talk about today. First of all, you have to look at the heinous, just horrible, absolutely horrible things that occurred during chattel slavery in the Americas. And it's not just the United States. Pretty much all the islands, in the Caribbean. You also have Brazil. You also, and you have a lot of just basic inhumanity to man occurring throughout the entire Americas. So maybe the only exception may be the province of Canada. So we're talking about this entire land, and most of it was covered up. So you have to understand, not only did this stuff occur, but you had other things like the camps where they actually made men into homosexuals. The bronc busting camps. You had breeding plantations where all they did was take female slaves there and impregnate them and breed them so that they could have more slaves without having to bring them all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. So and these are heinous things. I mean, you can't imagine. Then you had, on top of that, you had the selling of slaves, where families could be broken up and taken from one another. So how does that affect things spiritually? And I know I've been talking about this all the time, and I keep talking. I'm going to keep talking about it. And it's the breakup of the original Trinity, the Trinity, which is holy to the Most High. The Most High held this Trinity the highest above anything: the mother, the woman, the father, the man, and then the child. Okay, these things were held in very high esteem by the Most High. And when that was destroyed, in fact, that was the basis for all of this, was to destroy that and to replace the Most High with what? With greed and money and all of that, because that's the only reason why all of this stuff was done. It was greed. It had nothing to do with, I mean, once they had people, why couldn't they just, pay them a fair wage? But no, that was not the case. They weren't given a fair wage. What they were done, and then we started the practices of what? Lynching, beatings, whippings, any type of public humiliation, and it's still going on to this day. They've been doing this for 400 years, y'all. So it's not going to stop overnight. It's not going to stop through a law or anything like that, because what? It's spiritually, it's innate in them spiritually. All right, the people that do this stuff, they are under a curse. They are spiritually under a curse, and they actually believe. People that believe in white supremacy actually believe that they are superior to every other race of people on the earth. And there are people that actually believe that they are, and all of this kind of stuff, and it just gets more and more ridiculous as we go through time and through history. Even the stuff with Colin Kaepernick, protesting about the government and the police brutality that goes on. The police brutality is nothing more than a prolonged action of what? Of when they had overseers on plantations. The overseers, if they caught slaves that were not doing what they were supposed to do, what did they do? They killed them. They beat them. They did all kind of heinous things. To why? So they could show the other slaves that this would be the end. This would be what will happen to you if you don't obey the white supremacist master. And that's all that's going on now. Even when we see this stuff, and now we see it on social media, we see it on television, we see it on, but there was a long period. Look, this stuff has always gone on. It just seems worse now because of social media and because people have cell phones with cameras on them and all that kind of stuff. So now, as opposed to the way that it used to be in the old days, they used to just get away with this stuff. And they could do whatever they wanted to. And it would be the police. It wasn't all of these lynchings and all of these, vigilante trials and all the things that occurred. These things were not surprising. They were done. We have cases, when I was in law school, I read many a case where they, provided some type of vigilante justice for something to happen. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The Emmett Till case. The Emmett Till case was nothing but a case of vigilante justice. Emmett Till ain't bit more did that than the Man in the Moon. And there's been literally thousands of black, men and women and children as well. I mean, we had cases of them feeding black children to alligators so they could hunt alligators. They would take children and use them as alligator bait, which is ridiculous. What kind of person would do that? And so when we start to talk about how in the history of the world, and think about this spiritually, in the history of the world, and that's why I talk about the indigenous people. It's not just black people. It's not just descendants of Africans. It's not just the African or the descendants of Africans or anything like that. Whatever you want to call yourself, people with melanin, whatever terminology we use. But everybody that's indigenous to the world, or that was a melanated person on the earth, every single one of those people were, at some point, they tried to destroy them. And I'm talking about the Europeans and the Caucasians tried to destroy these people. I mean, and it's a fact. It's a historical fact. Well, these are not things we're making up. Look at the Native Americans, the people that were already here in the Americas before they got here. They literally destroyed those people. We have evidence, the Trail of Tears, all of these things put in, placed on there. I mean, basically tried to annihilate them off the face of the earth. The only reason why they didn't try to annihilate black people off the face of the earth is because they needed the African in order to do the hard work. They couldn't do the hard labor. And as we have found out throughout history, that there was a lot of stuff that they couldn't do. But all the indigenous people of the earth were always loving and kind and never did anything to try to destroy the earth. In other words, they used the land wisely. We see all these pictures all over the internet of people going to Africa or going to South America and killing animals, and the indigenous people of the earth never did any of that. So you had people that were native Asians, you had people that were native Aborigines in Australia, you had people that were native Mayans and Incans, in Central and South America. And all of these people now, they're all being vilified like they're the people that should, and then you look, my father-in-law, one of his favorite sayings is that The only difference between anybody that has dark skin is a boat stop where they stopped and they let you off to enslave you, and then you have all of these. So now all of these sexual practices, homosexuality, pedophilia, bestiality, all of these different sexual practices, they were introduced into the world by Caucasians and Europeans. None of these things are ever documented in any other culture, in any other race, in any other society. They're not there. And as a matter of fact, even to this day, there are more countries that are closer to being theocracies in Central South America and in Africa than any place else on the planet. In Europe, you don't see any theocracy or any try. Maybe Russia. You could say that Russia, is a theocracy, but then they have a terrible, horrible human rights record during the Cold War. So you got to think about this. So it is a spiritual thing. These things have come along because they have gone on for so long, and now they're part of their makeup. See, once you do, like, people wonder, they say, well, why does, like you see a kid and say, well, he acts just like his daddy, or she acts just like her mother, or she acts just like her daddy, or he acts just like his mother, or whatever. Well, that's because certain things are true. The life force, the force of life is in the blood. And if something is created and kept within your, in your bloodline, eventually the people in your bloodline start acting the way that they are. That's why sometimes you can say, or you, and it even is true because you can see people that never met their parents or never met their grandparents or things like that, and then all of a sudden they find out and they're like, wow, this person is just alike, or this person is just like that person. Why? Because it's generational. And as we've gone generational, that is why we've gotten more and more and further away from the Most High. And there's all these different things going on. And now we have a movement to try to make things, where we have the examples that, and even the examples that we have, the women are given the example of being harlots and whores. The men are given the example of fratricide, killing one another, and all those type of things, which was not traits that we had as being Africans or anything like that. So we have to understand that that's the way that things are, and we have to understand that as time has gone on, that it's gotten worse and worse and worse, and as it's gotten worse, that everything has been changed in order to make things more negative, and to bring anarchy, and to bring the fact that whoever has the most money is able to actually do what is necessary in order to take power and control over everybody else. That's basically what it's all about. And so we have to change our spirituality and change our morality. And you can't tell me that all of the things that have been documented throughout history, and there's no evidence whatsoever of anything coming from any of the indigenous people. And then they tried to take Hollywood to make the indigenous people of the earth look bad. Remember the cowboy and Indian movies or whatever, and the Indians were always called savages and evil, and then the African movies, even in Tarzan and all this kind of stuff, that we were called savages and witch doctors and all of this kind of stuff. But now, as things come around full circle, we see that those images and everything were not true, or that the images were used in order to try to indoctrinate us into thinking that we were inferior. Even the religion, even Christianity is a religion to force you into an inferiority complex, so that you think you're not good enough on your own, and you think you need something outside of you in order to save you, which is not true. Anyway, that's the fastest 15 minutes is social media. I'm Judson Powell. Subscribe, like. I love you.